Everything unfolding within and around you is energy, and whether you're aware of it or not, you are the one directing that current. In this very moment, your brain is navigating millions of signals, a quiet flood of sensations. The pressure of your clothing against your skin, the faint vibration of background sounds, the subtle shift of light across the room. All of this is happening continuously, yet most of it remains outside your awareness. Why? Because your brain is filtering, simplifying, and protecting your focus. But there's an unexpected side effect. The very filtering that helps you manage life also creates the experience of being constrained, of being stuck. Now think back to when you last faced something unfamiliar, a new sport, a fresh language, or a skill you had never tried before. At first, the experience was likely marked by discomfort. Your efforts felt disconnected, your body stiff, your thoughts scattered. With time and repetition, however, something shifted. Movements aligned, patterns emerged, and suddenly what once felt impossible began to feel natural. What actually changed was no accident. Your brain adapted, it rewired, it sculpted new pathways, new patterns within your mind. This is where the notion of energy control enters. Many believe success requires more energy, as though productivity is fuel-dependent. Yet the truth is often simpler. You don't need more energy. You need better flow. Imagine driving a powerful car with the parking brake half engaged. The tank is full, the engine strong, but the movement feels limited. So what do? You don't force more fuel inside. You learn to release the brake. You free the pathways where energy is already waiting to move. And the way to do this is by working with the bridge between your conscious and unconscious processes, the place where hidden abilities come alive. This is not just inspirational talk. It is rooted in neuroscience and cognitive psychology. Let's try something very basic, something experiential. Close your eyes for a moment and follow your breath. Notice each inhale and each exhale. Some brief, others long, some warm, others cool. Do not alter them. Simply observe as though you are a witness. Within a short while, your breath will begin to shift on its own. That simple shift is your nervous system releasing unnecessary layers of control. This same principle applies throughout life. The human mind creates thousands of invisible rules that govern behavior, rules that may protect, but also restrict. Consider the instinctive grace of a cat landing on its feet, or the raw persistence of a baby stumbling into their first steps. Neither needs explicit calculation. They are guided by natural learning. Yet, as adults, we layer thought upon thought. We begin to force outcomes instead of trusting process. Slowly, patterns harden, and while they provide security, they also confine our growth. Energy control is the practice of seeing those hidden frameworks and reshaping your relationship with them. Not forcing, not fighting, just learning to flow. Like surfing, the wave is already there. The power exists, whether you resist or not. But you can learn to ride it with balance, to move with it instead of being pulled under. Part of this practice is learning how your brain creates the version of reality you call truth. And once you see how perception works, you can adjust its frame. This isn't fantasy. It isn't tricking yourself into believing something false. It's recognizing that much of what you seek has been present all along, waiting for attention. The process isn't hidden, nor is it difficult. You don't need rituals or sacred tools. Instead, you take practical, attainable steps that immediately begin shaping results. Picture the mind as a camera lens. In its current state, most people leave it on autofocus, allowing the brain to decide what to prioritize. Energy control invites you to shift into manual mode, to take hold of the lens yourself. When you do, what comes into focus is no longer accidental. It is intentional. The picture sharpens, the details expand, and suddenly You see reality with clarity that was always possible, clarity that had been waiting for you. This may sound somewhat abstract at first, yet the effects are both genuine and measurable. Athletes harness these techniques to refine their performance. Musicians employ them to execute with precision. Business leaders rely on them to make more lucid decisions. The potential applications are vast because these underlying principles tap into the natural workings of your brain, functions of which most people remain unaware. Before we move forward, pause for a moment. Direct your awareness to your environment. Observe the colors, the shapes, the textures around you. Notice how your attention shifts from one detail to another. This ebb and flow of your focus is a powerful tool, one you will soon learn to consciously guide and utilize. It begins with starting small and progressing gradually. Just as running a marathon requires training, mastering control over your mental processes doesn't happen overnight. However, with consistent mindful practice, you can make steady advancements that accumulate into significant transformation. In the upcoming sessions, we will carefully dissect this process step by step. You will be guided to see beyond the illusions crafted by your brain and access deeper layers of awareness and self-regulation, not through force, but by gently removing the obstacles that hold you back. Though the techniques themselves are simple, the outcomes can be extraordinary. Let us begin. Your subconscious functions as the foundational matrix of perception that influences how you interpret and engage with the world. Imagine your brain as a supercomputer, continuously processing millions of pieces of information each second. The catch: most of this processing happens beneath your conscious awareness. Right now, your brain is filtering out the sensation of your clothing against your skin, muffled background noises, and countless other stimuli. It selects what is significant and dismisses the rest. This selective filtering once helped our ancestors survive by focusing on potential threats and sources of nourishment, and this mechanism still serves you today. Try this now. Gently close your eyes for 5 seconds. What sounds do you become aware of? Many find they notice noises previously unregistered by their conscious mind. Your brain was always receiving these inputs, but simply did not bring them into your attention until you deliberately focused. Selective attention functions like a spotlight in a darkened room. The area illuminated by that light becomes clear, while everything outside remains shadowed. Yet, unlike a physical spotlight, your brain can rapidly shift this focus across senses from seeing to hearing to touch and back instantly. Your past experiences and beliefs act as filters that color everything you perceive. For example, if you associate snakes with danger, your brain will alert you to snake-like shapes faster than someone who holds a positive view of snakes. These mental shortcuts formed from learned significance can sometimes deceive you. Imagine a banana under blue lighting. Despite the unusual illumination, it still appears yellow because your brain fills in what it expects. This process of adjustment happens without conscious realization, but it's possible to train your brain to expand awareness beyond such assumptions. Athletes do exactly this, practicing until they discern the slightest movement signaling an opponent's next move. Musicians train their ears to detect subtle sound variations others might miss. Poker players read minuscule facial cues and breathing changes that betray bluffs. Chefs cultivate an exquisitely sensitive palate to fine-tune flavor balance. Detectives sharpen their instincts for inconsistencies in body language or vocal tone during questioning. Stock traders develop the ability to identify patterns and anomalies overlooked by others in market behavior. Your brain improves at noticing whatever you practice observing, regardless of the domain. What you focus on, you strengthen. Consider learning to drive. Initially, every action demands conscious effort: the pedals, steering, mirrors. Over time, many of these become automatic. Your brain learns the priorities for focused attention and relegates the rest to the background. This process mirrors energy work. At first, sensing subtle energy flows may feel elusive, but with consistent attention, these sensations clarify. Your brain rewires itself, forming new patterns and creating shortcuts for this newfound awareness. You can leverage this skill by training focused attention. You enable your brain to detect energy patterns it once ignored. It's akin to increasing the contrast on an image. Details that were always present become visible. Now, let's practice this together. Bring your focus to your hands. Without moving them, simply sense their presence. After a few moments, you might notice sensations, tingling, warmth, or a gentle pulsing. These feelings have always existed beneath your awareness. Perception and the mind. You were not oblivious before. You were simply not tuned in. The brain acts as a filter, constructing your version of reality from only a small slice of the information that constantly surrounds you. By understanding how this filtering system works, you can begin to expand awareness and notice details that were always present but left outside of your conscious recognition. This process is not about imagining what isn't there. Instead, it is about sharpening your attention to what already exists within your field of experience. Perception is not rigid. It shifts depending on what you teach your brain to detect. Each time you engage in focused awareness, whether through mindful observation, energy-based practices, or intentional training, you are gently rewiring the brain to recognize new signals and associations. Over time, what once felt subtle becomes familiar, natural, and effortless. Think about the psychological process of learning a new language. At first, all you hear is noise, unfamiliar, and overwhelming. Yet through practice, the brain begins organizing sound into words, then meaning, then nuance. The sounds themselves never changed. What shifted was the brain's ability to categorize and interpret them. Training your awareness works in exactly the same way. The sensations that you will grow more attuned to are not foreign additions. They are part of the ongoing data stream your senses already provide. The transformation lies in how your mind learns to sort, prioritize, and present that information to your conscious self. This is why two people can participate in the same technique and describe different experiences. Each person's perception is filtered through their own neural learning history. There is no wrong interpretation, only unique patterns of mental organization. By learning how your brain selects, edits, and delivers information to your mind, you gain the ability to work with your system rather than against it. This means you can shape perception in ways that support learning, skill acquisition, and self-awareness. Every method you explore, every exercise you practice, strengthens the brain's cognitive shortcuts, making each new step in awareness smoother than the last. This ever-changing web of perception is the foundation for all deeper explorations of consciousness and energy work. When you align with the brain's natural processes instead of resisting them, learning accelerates and results stabilize. This is the framework we build upon as we begin drawing connections between the psychology of perception and the mysteries of quantum reality. The quantum mindset. The quantum world challenges our everyday assumptions and reveals rules that seem to stretch the limits of common sense. In this realm, objects can exist in more than one place simultaneously. Connections happen instantly across great distances, and simply observing something alters what is being observed. These curious effects are not just abstractions, they describe how the most fundamental layers of reality behave. Imagine flipping a coin. Normally it must land on heads or tails, but within the quantum framework, a particle can exist as both heads and tails at the same time, waiting for consciousness or measurement to decide. This strange ability is called superposition. Quantum mechanics isn't only philosophical, it already shapes our daily lives. The devices in your pocket, the GPS that tracks location, even the process plants use to turn sunlight into energy, all rely on quantum principles at their core. One of the most intriguing discoveries is quantum entanglement. Two particles, once connected, remain bonded in such a way that when one changes, the other does too, instantly, even across vast distances. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance because it seemed to break the rule that nothing outruns light itself. And these effects are not confined to abstract particles. Researchers have managed to place small physical objects, mirrors, pieces of metal, even living bacteria into states of superposition. What this shows us is that the boundary between the purely quantum and the ordinary world is much thinner and more permeable than we once believed. Just as psychology teaches us that awareness shapes perception, quantum physics suggests that observation shapes reality. The parallels between the two extend an invitation. What we notice, what we attend to, and what we measure all influence the world we experience. Reality and observation. Take a moment to pause and ask yourself, what does it mean for something to be real? In the realm of the quantum, reality does not offer us simple answers. If existence requires observation, then what is unseen? What remains beyond our awareness? Does it still count as real? Imagine a particle, restless, uncertain, occupying two places at once. It is only when we call our attention to it, only when we witness it, that it finally chooses a position. Does this not mirror our own existence, where identity takes form in relation to how we are seen, recognized, or measured by others? Some voices in science whisper that consciousness itself may be seeded with quantum processes, that the sparks of thought, the endless stream of awareness, might be laced with quantum rhythms inside the brain. These ideas remain speculative, but they invite us to consider the possibility that mind and matter are entangled at a level deeper than imagination, that human experience is not fully separable from the quantum stage on which reality performs. And yet, the mathematics, the invisible architecture of quantum theory, is exact, flawless in its precision. The debate lies not in the numbers, but in the meaning. Some interpret this paradox as evidence of vast parallel universes woven alongside our own. Others suggest a subtler truth, that consciousness itself begets reality, creating form through the simple power of observation. Whether one accepts one interpretation or another, the consequences can't be ignored. Already humans have begun to harness this strange domain. Quantum computers with their uncanny speed, quantum cryptography offering safety in a world where secrecy is fragile, quantum sensors reaching to detect the faintest tremors of gravity, magnetic whisperings, and even the flow of time itself. And within this scientific progress lies a psychological revelation. Nothing is isolated. What appears as empty space is alive with invisible transactions, ghost-like particles emerging and dissolving, unseen but constant. Just as we cannot peel the observer away from the observed, neither can we separate ourselves from the world we watch. We are threaded into it, participants rather than detached onlookers. This unsettles our most basic notions of causality. At the quantum scale, effect does not always wait upon cause. Time itself bends, flexes, resists the tidy flow we assume governs our days. Within this structure, certainty dissolves into possibility. And still, despite its strangeness, quantum theory stands solid, tested, confirmed, unyielding. It reminds us that reality, this strange, elusive reality, is not separate from us. What feels like an oddity at the smallest scale is in fact the truest foundation beneath everything we know. We simply experience it through the softened filter of our everyday classical world. Toward what sips next. As science tightens its grasp on quantum systems, we see how this unseen world gives rise to the technologies of the future, not only in computing, but in biology and engineering. The quantum does not live exclusively in laboratories. It breathes beneath every structure, every relationship, every living thing. To peer into it is to deepen our appreciation of mystery itself, the recognition that existence is interwoven and unfathomably rich. And with this comes a crucial lesson. The act of observing is never passive. Quantum physics insists that by perceiving we alter, by looking we shape, by knowing we participate. Reality is never indifferent to the one who sees it. The observer and the observed. Here lies the heart of the matter. The dance between observer and observed. The observer effect is not just a scientific puzzle, it is a reflection of the human condition. To observe is to change. To be seen is to transform. This is both a principle of physics and a mirror of lived psychology. Consider the child at play. Alone, they are natural, spontaneous, unguarded. But let them notice eyes watching. Instinct shifts. They may begin to perform, to boast, to hide, to conform. Awareness of being seen alters the raw flow of their being. Observation reshapes identity. So too, at the smallest scales of the quantum, a particle waits, undefined, until a gaze, an act of measurement, fixes it in place. The very choice to look changes what can be found, like switching on a light to test for darkness, yet changing the very darkness we sought to witness. Here we discover a profound psychological truth. Our awareness is not separate from reality. To see and to be seen are active forces, creative acts. The universe responds to its own observation, much as we, in the fabric of our lives, shift and reshape simply by being observed. Energy awareness, and the act of observing. Let's pause and consider what it truly means to engage in the act of energy awareness. When your attention rests on energy, you are not a silent witness standing apart. Rather, you are an active participant in how that energy unfolds and responds. The moment you notice, you enter into a relationship with what you are observing. Observation is not passive. It forms a bridge, a thread of connection between your awareness and the experience itself. Now, this should not be seen as a limitation. In fact, it can be used as a powerful tool. Once we understand that the simple act of attention modifies what we notice, we gain precision in our practice. Imagine focusing on the sensations in your palms. The very decision to look for that subtle energy already begins to shape its presence. Your expectation does not just anticipate experience, it actively contributes to it. In this way, attention and expectation help bring our inner realities into form. This naturally leads to a deeper question. If observation alters what is being observed, then how can we know what is genuinely real? The answer invites us to expand our perspective. Everything we observe carries truth, but that truth is always entwined with our involvement. The observation doesn't erase reality, it colors it. Think of it as a dance, two partners guiding and adjusting to one another with every step. Consider watching a sunset. The beauty you see is not only due to the sky's colors, it is also shaped by the feelings you project, the memories that surface, the state of mind you bring into that moment. Reality and perception meet each other halfway, co-creating the meaning of that experience. In energy awareness, this insight is profound. If you direct your attention toward calmness, your act of focusing already begins to weave that calm into existence. If you seek resilience or strength, your awareness becomes the vessel through which that strength takes form. Responsibility and intention. Yet, observation carries more than curiosity. It carries responsibility. The very principle that attention alters experience lays before us an ethical task to choose our intentions wisely. Whatever we sustain focus on grows larger within us. This does not mean we are creating illusions. Rather, it reveals that we are participants in reality, not detached spectators. In psychological terms, you are both subject and object. You are the observer of an internal process, while also the material being shaped through that act of observation. It is like taking a photograph in which you yourself are also reflected in the frame. Practical integration. What does this look like in lived practice? Notice, for example, the sensations that arise when you turn attention to subtle experience. Perhaps you expect warmth, tingling, or movement. More often than not, what you anticipate influences what you feel, far from being a distortion. This is a natural human process. The essential step is not to dismiss it, but to remain conscious of it, aware that your mind and body are co-creators in the process. Psychology reminds us there is no such thing as absolute objectivity. Every perception, every measurement, every judgment is touched by our perspective. While this creates challenge, it also provides opportunity. If you are beginning to engage in practices of energy or awareness, you may struggle with doubt. If I am shaping part of this, how can I trust what is happening? The response is subtle yet simple. What matters is outcome, not purity of observation. If the process results in healing, growth, or clarity, then it has served its purpose. This is much like learning to ride a bicycle. At first, you may overanalyze, wondering if each movement is correct. Yet once the balance takes hold, what matters is not whether the method is perfect, but whether you are upright and moving where you intend. So too with energy and awareness. Results, not perfection, anchor the value of practice. By embracing the truth that observation sculpts reality, we step out of the role of passive spectator and accept ourselves as co-authors of experience. This acknowledgement heightens effectiveness. Rather than denying our influence, we learn to work with it consciously, skillfully, and with intention. Attention as a tool. As we continue this process, I want you to notice something simple yet profound. Your attention itself is a tool. Think about how a sculptor's hands shape the clay. The material always changes in response. In the same way, whatever you observe begins to shift under the gaze of your awareness. This is not accidental. Your attention carries influence. The more you understand the effect of your focus, the more deliberately you can use it. And when you learn to guide your attention in this way, your practice deepens, your experiences clarify, and your results strengthen. This realization becomes a doorway into the next step. We are preparing to examine how these principles allow you to step outside of well-worn patterns, to break through loops of behavior and perception that once kept you spinning in repetition. What often feels like a boundary between the one who observes and what is being observed will begin to dissolve. And when it does, you gain access to a wider field, a new freedom to work with energy and possibility in ways the old framework could never allow. A new perspective on energy. Consider for a moment what you were taught about energy. Most of us learn to imagine it as something that moves from one place to another, something external to us, like electricity surging along wires or heat rising into the air. These explanations feel comfortable because they match the surface appearance of things. But comfort does not always mean truth. When you flip a light switch, you may think that power travels from a plant, through grids, and into your bulb until it glows. This narrative is easy to accept. It feels logical. Yet underneath this story is a deeper truth. The bulb is not lit by something traveling across a distance. There is no actual sending in the way we've imagined. Energy is not being shipped from over there to right here. Instead, energy is present everywhere at once, permeating the very fabric of existence. What looks like a transfer is simply a shift, a disturbance echoing through a field that already contains everything. The bulb does not receive energy. It reveals the energy that was already here. The nature of energy. At first, this difference may sound like a technicality, but psychologically, it transforms how we relate to the world. If energy is already everywhere, then nothing is truly separate. It's not about things being moved, but about states of energy reorganizing themselves into balance. Even matter, solid and heavy, is only energy held in a particularly dense, stable form. Look at heat. We say heat rises, as if heat were a thing climbing upward. But what really happens is much simpler. Energy seeks equilibrium. When your hand nears a hot object, you are not receiving heat from it. You are experiencing a shift in your own energetic state as the surrounding environment finds balance. This principle holds for everything we know. Sound is not an object carried through the air. It is pressure, a pattern already moving within the field around you. Light is not a substance flung across space. It is a quiver in the electromagnetic sea that fills the cosmos. Electricity is not electrons marching down a wire. It is the resonance of energy expressing itself along a path of least resistance. Even gravity is not one object pulling another. It is the shape of space-time itself adjusting, energy folding inward and outward to find harmonious balance. The flow of water downhill is not the water itself that motivates movement, but the difference in energetic levels between heights. And chemical reactions, they are energy in dialogue with itself, restructuring bonds, redistributing balance, rewriting form. Begin to see the pattern. Every expression of reality is not something external, but the fabric of energy rearranging itself endlessly. Energy is not out there. It is the very essence of all that is, including you. Working with energy. Now imagine what this means for our work. If energy is everywhere and always in flux, then your task is not to push it or force it, but to work with its natural tendencies, to shift states, to open pathways, to redirect flow, much as one channels water by opening or closing a dam rather than carrying buckets. Psychologically, this invites a profound shift as well. Instead of fighting with life, trying desperately to move things from outside to inside or from later into now, you begin to cooperate with what is already present. You start to influence the state rather than the substance. The more you approach life with this perspective, the less you find yourself bound by the illusion of effortful pushing, and the more you discover the ease of alignment. This is not just theory. It is a practice that allows you to reshape old conditioning, dissolve the sense of separation, and awaken to the flexibility of energy, both in your own inner life and in the world around you. Notice the image of a river, the flow we talked about earlier. When you let yourself sink into that image, it starts to hold more meaning. We are not standing on the banks, detached from it, as though energy is something happening out there. No, we are in the river, moving with it, inseparable from its current. Each observation you make, each thought, each choice, is your current brushing against another current in the same stream of energy. Every measurement, every action is not separate. It's the field interacting with itself. This is not just philosophy or abstract theory. It emerges in practical patterns all around us. Technology, even the simplest machines, works best, not when we impose a rigid idea of control, but when we align with energy's own unfolding. Solar cells draw more when they are built with change in mind, not conquest. Batteries endure longer when designed around balance and stable states rather than force. And even our smallest tools last longer and perform better when we cooperate with, rather than resist, the natural rhythm of energy. What makes this difficult to hold on to is the weight of old habits. The illusion of separation feels real, more real than connection. And yet, once you glimpse the deeper truth that all energy is one co-arising field, you can't fully unsee it. The perspective shifts, and with it, your way of engaging shifts too. So next time you sense energy, whether in motion, in light, in your own body, practice looking through the surface picture. Don't just see something moving or flowing. See states shifting inside a unified field. Don't imagine separate pieces colliding. Imagine the larger system moving within itself. That single change in vision opens doors to possibility. Because when you stop struggling with what you thought were limits and instead join in with what energy already wants to do, everything changes. No more wasted effort moving things from point A to point B. Instead, you cultivate conditions for transformations to happen naturally. The illusion of separateness, energy here, object there, has kept us locked. By loosening its grip, you reclaim access to energy as it really is, seamless, interconnected, alive. This shift is not just about energy outside you, it mirrors how your brain works. The mind itself is like clay, like plastic. It rewires, remaps, restores itself in response to newness. This quality, neuroplasticity, means that every time you take a step into unfamiliar ground, you carve a new pathway in the landscape of your mind, and those new pathways bypass the old ruts of limitation. Think of your comfort zone, not a prison, but a shrinking starting point. Each new action stretches it wider. The walls blur, the landscape opens. What once felt barred, impossible, begins to feel inviting, reachable. But be aware, the old walls are clever. They rebuild themselves through whispers. That was luck. They murmur after success. Too hard, they echo at challenge. Notice those voices. They are not truth. They are the crumbling echoes of your old prison. Look at children. See how they leap into imagination. Pirates, astronauts, healers, dancers, without inner objection. They have not yet accepted the contract of limitation. That same freedom is not gone in you, only hidden behind the architecture of doubt. Here's the thing. Your brain filters reality through expectation. Believe something is impossible, and you blind yourself to openings that wait right in front of you. It is like wearing dark glasses indoors and wondering why life seems dim. Breaking through takes gentle persistence. Begin by noticing when you automatically say no within yourself. Pause and question it. Ask yourself, is this objective truth, or simply a familiar belief trying to hold on? The walls of your perception imprisonment were not raised in a day, and they will not topple overnight. Yet every time you question, step forward, or lean into an edge of discomfort, you weaken their grip. Small cracks appear. Your actual limits lie far beyond the story your mind repeats. Consider anyone who ever inspired you. Their achievement was not born from freedom, but from refusal to bow to their own inner limits. They faced the same prison guards, fear, doubt, habitual thought, but chose to keep walking. You too hold the key. The walls are patrolled. Yes, but they are patrolled by your own thoughts. And thoughts can change. Different choices rewrite the script. New directions redraw the map. This is not shallow, positive thinking. It is deeper, clearer, accurate thinking. Thinking without fear's dark filter. You begin to notice what was hidden. And as you look closer, you see your prison bars were only paper thin, breakable, tearable. Your questions, your curiosity, and your small acts of courage are enough to rip them down. Each act makes you stronger. Each wall that falls shows you new horizons. The world beyond your limiting perception is vast, so full of doorways and possibilities your mind had veiled. The lock is undone. The walls are crumbling. All that remains is the first step forward. Now, imagine the quantum mirror, not a literal glass, but a way of seeing. In this mirror, you don't just see your face. You see energy in all its versions and directions, heat shimmering, nerves sparking, atoms vibrating, endless possibilities reflected back, moment by moment. This mirror doesn't just show now, it reveals what could be, like pebbles making ripples in water. Each small shift creates unforeseen pathways. Move your hand, and dozens of futures ripple outward. Yet here lies the mystery. Observing those possibilities makes them shift, merely looking changes the dance. Scientists saw this in quantum experiments, but you recognize it in your own life too. Observation changes reality. Attention directs unfolding. Think of how a child plays when alone, unguarded, flowing freely. Watch them, and the flow changes, more self-conscious, more contained. The mirror works this way. Your awareness alters the performance. So the lesson is simple. You are not outside energy's play, tugging strings at a distance. You are inside it, as inseparable as a dancer in a dance, trying to control energy as though you were outside it. This often fails, but stepping back, sensing its natural path, and allowing it to guide your choices, that is where harmony emerges. Like water, making its own way downhill. And within this mirror, time itself loosens its grip, no longer an arrow marching forward, but a spreading pattern, past touching future, cause twining with effect, a web of interaction instead of a straight line. If you can learn to read it, you don't force reality. You touch the smallest point that ripples outward, shifting everything. One note making the glass sing. And patterns arrive, familiar and surprising. Fractals, echoes, recurring shapes. Tree within tree, cloud within cloud, motion within motion. This order within seeming chaos whispers that life is not lawless. There are currents, harmonies, natural arrangements that sustain the whole field. The quantum mirror, then, is not a device. It is a perspective, a way of realizing that every moment you seek to act upon energy, you are also reflected within it. What you see is not separate. It is you, stitched into the same field, shaped as much as shaping. And this understanding changes everything. When you stop clenching to control, you begin to guide gently, like a leaf choosing how to tilt as the river carries it downstream, not directing the river, but choosing how to move within it. So, the next time you pause and sense energy in your world, close your eyes and picture the quantum mirror. Notice not just what is, but all that could ripple outward. Watch how your attention itself shifts the reflection. And whenever you forget, remind yourself this truth. You are not just watching energy's dance. You are in the dance. You are part of the music. Notice how this principle works within our own minds. The moment we turn attention inward, something subtle begins to shift. A headache doesn't feel quite the same when awareness lands on it. Breathing alters the instant we notice its rhythm. Even the simple act of walking transforms the second we begin observing how the body moves through space. Researchers first noticed this dynamic while studying particles at the smallest levels of reality. They found that the act of measuring changed what was being measured. Focusing on a particle's position altered its movement. Measuring its speed altered its position. Both could not be held clearly at once. The observation itself reshaped the reality. But this principle doesn't belong only to physics. It belongs to psychology, to human experience, to daily life. When caught inside anger, we are swallowed up by the emotion. Everything is colored by it. Yet the second we step back and name it, I notice I am feeling angry. Something in the relationship with that anger begins to loosen. The emotion remains, but our connection to it is no longer the same. This creates an opening, an opportunity. By noticing our own internal patterns, the cycles of thought, reaction, and emotion, we begin creating a pause, a gap between stimulus and response. And within that gap, there is freedom. The freedom to choose differently. Think about worry. Left unchecked, worry spirals. One thought links to another, dragging us deeper into anxious predictions. But awareness has the power to break this chain. If we catch the process right at the start, the projection weakens. The very act of noticing that the mind is worrying interrupts the automatic loop. Consider also the body. Many of us carry tension, shoulders pulled tight, jaw clenched, without realizing it. And the instant awareness touches that tightness, release becomes possible. Observation itself holds the seed of relief. Of course, not everything can be observed at once. Just like those quantum particles, when one aspect comes into focus, another recedes, and that's natural. Awareness can shift gently, just like adjusting a camera. Each time we refocus, a new layer of experience becomes visible. Which brings us to the practical question, what is worth observing? The answer depends on what we seek to shift. If breaking a habit, we might watch closely for the moments when it begins. If learning a skill, we might observe the patterns of practice. If deepening relationships, we might tune into our ways of listening and responding. The key lies in observing without judgment. Like a psychologist collecting detailed data, we simply notice not what we think should be happening, but what is happening. This neutral kind of awareness opens the door to natural, organic change. Sometimes those changes are small, an easier breath, a softer jaw, one extra moment before words leave our mouth. Other times they are dramatic, a shift in behavior, perspective, or in the very story we tell ourselves. Yet all of it begins with the act of conscious observation. And so, we return to the central principle: whatever we carefully watch begins to change under our gaze. This knowledge can now be used deliberately. We can choose where to place attention and how to place it. Awareness itself becomes a psychological instrument of transformation. This phenomenon is not a mystical oddity, nor simply a curiosity of physics. It is a principle we can practice each day. Choosing what to observe and how is like learning to lead in the dance of life, rather than being silently pulled along. When you're ready to create change, begin simply. Watch the pattern, the feeling, the thought. Don't push, don't force. Just observe with patience and sincere curiosity. The power of attention will begin working naturally. For in the endless dance of observer and observed, both are continuously reshaping one another. This is where the inner imagery enters. Our minds create continuous pictures, projections like film on a screen. These images guide how we feel, how we act, and the outcomes that unfold. The inner picture often directs reality more strongly than external circumstances. Let's explore this with a scenario. Imagine yourself stepping into a room full of people. In one version of your mind's movie, you see yourself clumsy, out of place, under silent judgment. Notice what happens. Your heart races, muscles tighten, unease ripples through your body before a single word is even spoken. Now, rewind and replay the scene differently. This time you walk in calmly, shoulders steady, connecting with ease, enjoying the warmth of interaction. Feel how the body softens, how energy levels change. The scene is the same, but the inner movie rewrites the experience. These movies often run on autopilot. They are shaped by memory, by messages from others, by old conclusions about what we believe ourselves to be. But here lies the power. We can become directors, not passive spectators. Practice begins when you notice a negative projection. Perhaps you are preparing to speak in front of others, and your mind plays a scene of failure, of laughter at your expense. Pause that film. Interrupt its momentum. Take a breath. Now direct a new version, one in which your words flow clearly, and the audience listens attentively. This is not about forcing positivity. It is not about denying reality either. Instead, it is about awareness, about knowing which movie is playing, and recognizing the influence it exerts on both mood and action. Some may dismiss this as empty optimism, but neuroscience shows the brain responds to mental rehearsal much like it does to lived experience. Athletes improve performance through visualizing flawless movements before competition. Musicians rehearse without touching their instruments, imagining fingering, breath, or tone, and their performance benefits. Our minds, too. can practice new ways of being before we step into reality. Take a moment and imagine this before stepping on stage. Many public speakers don't just rehearse their words, they rehearse their entire presence. They picture the energy of the audience, they sense the steadiness of their own voice, and they imagine carrying themselves with confidence. Chess players do something similar, running whole games in their minds, anticipating moves, forecasting strategies, rehearsing outcomes. Even surgeons use this mental rehearsal, walking through procedures step by step in their heads, creating a steady hand before they ever make a single incision. Now, let's bring this principle into your own life. Mental rehearsal is not just for performers, strategists, or physicians. It's a powerful way of shaping your actions, energy, and choices in real situations. When you imagine something with detail and sincerity, the brain begins to behave as though the event is already unfolding. This isn't shallow, positive thinking. Instead, it's about rehearsing inner movies that your system can actually believe, movies that align with growth, not fantasies it immediately dismisses. Think about it this way. If you're trying to master a new skill, don't picture yourself as instantly flawless. That will only create tension. Instead, see yourself developing gradually, learning through challenges, and strengthening with every step. This is how the brain integrates change naturally. Let's try a small practice together. Bring to mind a situation that usually creates some nervousness for you. Notice what kind of mental movie automatically plays. Maybe it's a picture of failing or being judged. Don't force yourself into imagining perfection right away. Instead, gently adjust the movie. If the scene shows you falling apart, shift it to a version where you handle things adequately, even if not flawlessly. If you imagine harsh criticism from others, adjust it so that people respond more neutrally, or even with mild encouragement. Now, build this adjusted mental movie with as many details as possible. What visuals are there? What sounds? How does your body feel when you watch this different version? The more senses you involve, the more real this rehearsal becomes for the brain. And the more often you practice these movies, the more your nervous system learns that new outcomes are possible. You are not trying to force belief, you're teaching your system to broaden its responses. When you consistently run more supportive mental images, your physiology begins to match. Anxiety softens, posture becomes steadier, tone of voice changes. Others react differently to you because you are carrying yourself differently. In many cases, reality starts aligning with the new inner movies you rehearse. Think back to times when you've obsessed over potential disasters, replaying worst-case scenarios in vivid detail. How much energy did that drain from you? And yet, notice how powerful that rehearsal was, even if it created stress. Now, imagine aiming that same strength of imagination towards something steadying and constructive. You're not pretending bad things can't happen. You're choosing where to invest your mental energy. This practice isn't about blocking negative thoughts. It's about realizing you are not forced to watch the same old film on repeat. Each time you catch yourself projecting failure or fear, you have an opportunity to edit the script. Over time, the shift becomes automatic. Yes, the mind will still throw up old movies. It's what the mind does. But you are not just the stream of thoughts. You are also the director who can choose what to play next. The more you practice, the quicker you'll notice when an outdated reel starts rolling, and the easier it becomes to swap it for something more supportive. Think of this as building a bridge from where you are now to where you want to be, scene by scene, choice by choice. And there's a deeper layer here. Beneath all these mental movies lies something more constant, an awareness that watches them arise and pass. This awareness, the observing presence, is not caught inside the story. It is the part of you that knows the story is being told. Imagine sitting in a theater. The screen plays an endless variety of scenes, joy, fear, love, disaster, triumph. But you, the one in the seat, are untouched by the rain when it pours on screen, or by the monster when it attacks. Thoughts are like that. They can be vivid, convincing, emotional, but there's always awareness quietly watching them. This awareness is not fleeting. It is steady and ever-present. It is the part of you that knows you are reading these words right now, that feels your breath moving, that notices a sound in the room or a sensation in your body. Unlike thoughts, this awareness doesn't come and go. It is the backdrop behind all experience. Suffering deepens when we mistake ourselves for the stories thought creates, when we believe, I am my worry, my regret, my fear. But those are temporary states, fleeting appearances like passing clouds, the sky itself. The awareness remains open, clear, and unbroken. And the invitation here is not only to reflect on this idea intellectually, but to sense it directly. Take a moment, right now. Notice that there is awareness. Noticing these words. Notice that awareness is what allows thought, sensation, sound, and experience to appear. Ask quietly, what is it that knows this moment is unfolding? That presence is not carried away by the movie. It is simply here, always. You might find yourself saying, well, I'm already aware. But pause for a moment. What is this I that claims awareness? Can you actually locate it? Or is there simply awareness itself, quietly present, receiving whatever arises? The very sense of being a separate me, the center that seems to be in charge, is itself an appearance within awareness. This is what unity points to. Not that all experience dissolves into a single blur, but rather that every event, thought, sound, feeling, sensation arises within the same open field of awareness. The world doesn't vanish. Your thoughts still stream, your emotions still move, but they are recognized differently, less as fixed truths, and more as unfolding patterns taking shape within awareness. You can test this even now. Bring to mind a single thought. Where does it arise? Can you locate it in physical space? No. You only know it because it appears in consciousness. Listen to a sound. Where is it registered? Again in awareness. Notice a sensation in the body. Where exactly is it known? In awareness. Every experience you have occurs and is known within this one field. Although it may seem philosophical, this is the most concrete fact you ever encounter, your direct experience right here, in this moment. You don't need to enter an altered state or force yourself into stillness. Nothing needs to change. Simply turn attention inward and look. What is it that is actually aware right now? And when you see, even briefly, something softens, thoughts lose some of their weight. The idea of a fragile, separate self that needs protecting begins to loosen. Awareness itself is already whole, already steady, already at peace before a single thought moves. Life, like a film, continues its play. This doesn't mean life becomes passive or dull. Actions still occur, they always have, but now they arise more fluidly, guided by awareness rather than a contracted sense of me struggling to control. We begin to respond to life's circumstances directly, not through the filter of stories we tell about who we are or what should happen. Inevitably, the mind pushes back. It whispers, but what about my worries? What about my responsibilities? Isn't this just retreating from reality? So check directly. As you notice awareness, are you escaping, or are you engaging with reality more honestly, seeing it stripped of assumptions of self, stripped of the filters you impose on the raw texture of experience? This recognition doesn't need to happen all at once. It deepens gradually. The more consciously you rest as awareness rather than as thoughts about yourself, the lighter things feel. Life continues. Problems still come and go, but they are seen as movements in awareness, not as burdens owned by a personal self. In that shift, there is more breathing room, more quiet strength, and a more natural flow. This discovery is not something to gain. It is not the creation of a new state. It is the return to what has always been the case, that you are the awareness in which all things appear. Nothing needs to be added to it, even skepticism. Even the thought, "this isn't real," arises within the same presence. So right now, just notice. What is it that knows these words? What is it that notices your thoughts about them? What remains when thinking briefly stops? That presence, that bare awareness, is what you are. Everything else, thoughts, identities, perceptions, comes and goes within it. This is what is meant by unity. But our minds easily veil this recognition. Each of us constructs a personal version of reality, a mental film projected on the screen of awareness. And this film feels utterly real. Yet it is not direct reality. It is a filtered representation. Your brain pieces together sensory input, shaped deeply by past memory, expectation and belief. Consider perception itself. When you look at a tree, your eyes receive shifting patterns of light. Your brain then organizes them into the learned concept tree, and what you think you see is not the raw tree itself, but your brain's rendering of it. The actual tree remains beyond the image your mind produces. Feelings too work through this same lens of interpretation. You rarely feel pure emotion. You feel your history within the moment. If someone fails to greet you, the sadness or irritation that arises may not be about that missed hello. It's filtered through past wounds of rejection. You are feeling a story as much as the present. This filtering is adaptive. It helps us move quickly in the world, but it also traps us, reinforcing patterns that belong more to memory than to the living moment. Fears born long ago still shape present choices. Beliefs that once protected us quietly restrict who we can become. The illusion of self goes even deeper. We don't just create images of the world, we create an image of ourselves. We cling to stories like, "I'm bad at this," "I'm always unlucky," "I'm someone who can't cope." These repeated self-narratives feel solid, but they are simply thought patterns, rehearsed and believed until they feel unshakable. Modern life amplifies these distortions. Social media floods us with curated images, pictures of lives reduced to highlights, while we measure ourselves against them from within our messier reality. The comparison deepens the illusion of separation and dissatisfaction. Even something as powerful as money operates the same way. We treat it as real, as solid, but it holds value only because we collectively agree to its meaning. In truth, it is symbols, paper, or numbers on a screen, and yet entire lives and histories are shaped by this shared belief. So much of what we take to be real is not reality itself, but a mental world, a movie projected in consciousness. Yet awareness, the presence in which all this appears, remains constant, unchanging, and quietly free. Imagine for a moment that time, as you know it, might not be quite what it seems. You sense it flowing like a river, moving unidirectionally from past to future. But what if physics whispers a different story? What if this experience, this sensation of time passing, is no more than an intricate mental construct your brain weaves for you? This perception, this illusion, frames your reality. Now, it's important to understand escaping these illusions isn't about dismissing them entirely. They serve a purpose. They help you navigate a complex social world. The true insight lies in seeing them clearly for what they are: mental frameworks, not the absolute fabric of existence. Think of how, within a dream, the world feels utterly real, yet upon waking you realize you were only immersed in a creation of your mind. Similarly, becoming conscious of your everyday illusions is like awakening to a broader, deeper truth. This awakening is freeing. When you recognize that your limits are often self-imposed narratives constructed by your own mind, you open the door to transformation. If your brain was the author of these mental patterns, it holds the power to rewrite them. But such recognition brings responsibility. Once you're aware that your mind shapes your reality, your role in creating your experience becomes undeniable. External circumstances lose their grip as sole controllers of your life. Here's the empowering part. Understanding the illusory nature of your experience hands you the reins. Just like a movie loses its emotional hold once you remember its fiction, your fears and anxieties diminish when you see them as mental fabrications. This doesn't negate your reality. They are genuinely felt in the moment, but knowing they are mind-made lends you the privilege to reshape them. Consider this: diverse cultures perceive the world through vastly different lenses. What's obvious to one group may be invisible to another. This illustrates how perception is molded by what you've learned to see. Living within this illusion is like being both actor and audience in a play. At times you become absorbed in the drama, at others you step back, aware it is a performance. Both views have their place. The crucial balance lies in using the illusion pragmatically while maintaining awareness of its constructed nature. Such awareness creates space for growth beyond the confines of your current perceived reality. The moment of awakening strikes uniquely for everyone. For some, it emerges suddenly, a lightning bolt piercing the night. For others, it dawns gradually, like sunlight inching past the clouds. But once revealed, this truth cannot be unseen. Recall those moments when something felt off. The subtle doubts during the news, or that instinctive gut feeling that the story didn't fully add up. Those were not random whispers. They were your internal compass guiding you toward truth. From childhood, you were conditioned to accept rather than question. Education prioritized memorization over inquiry. Media fed you curated narratives rather than raw truths. Compliance was rewarded. Independent thought suppressed. Yet deep inside, you sense these unseen chains. The ultimate truth is simple. You are born free, not merely by law, but free in mind and spirit. No external force has the right to cage your thoughts or limit your potential. And yet, subtle manipulation circumscribes your freedom daily. Look at your life's rhythm. Awakened by alarms, pushed into jobs you may resent, consuming needless things, watching mind-numbing shows, then collapsing in exhaustion, only to repeat. You're told this is normal, success, life itself. But is it truly? The secret reveals itself. Your power surpasses all you've been led to believe. Your thoughts craft your reality. Your focus directs your experience. Your choices pave your path. But somewhere along the way, you relinquished this power piece by piece until it faded from memory. The heartening news: that power remains within, dormant but never lost, waiting to be reclaimed. And reclamation starts simply with questioning, not from paranoia, but from honest, open curiosity. Ask yourself, why do I believe what I believe? Who benefits from my believing this? What would happen if I embraced a different belief? These questions crack open the shell of illusion, allowing luminous insight to pour in. As you question, patterns emerge: fear as control, artificial scarcity fostering competition, distraction diverting attention from what truly matters. The pieces begin to align. But here's a truth few speak openly. Awakening isn't merely seeing flaws, it's envisioning possibility. Breaking free from mental chains ignites a creative fire you never knew existed. You summon strength long forgotten. You rediscover your authentic self. Yet, with awakening comes duty. Once you glimpse the truth, retreating to sleep is impossible. You own your growth, your choices, your journey. Blind acceptance fades. Questioning becomes a new norm. Some will resist your transformation. They may brand you as strange, urge conformity, attempt to tether you back to old patterns. This discomfort is natural. Change unsettles those who cling to familiar beliefs. Stand firm, grounded in calm certainty, not anger or judgment. Truth needs no defense. It simply stands. Your mission isn't to persuade others, but to live your truth openly and let your life be the testament. Begin small. Challenge one belief today. Alter one habit tomorrow. Step toward authenticity next week. These small acts accumulate, leading to profound shifts. Consistency outweighs speed. The path can feel lonely at first, but with time, kindred spirits will appear, those who see what you see, question what you question, seek what you seek. These connections will blossom naturally. Remember, awakening isn't a destination, it's a journey. Each day brings fresh insights, questions, chances to choose truth over illusion. Some days will challenge you. That's part of growth. Progress is rarely linear. The beauty of awakening lies in its revelation of human potential. You are not a limited being destined for a small existence. You are a powerful creator, shaping reality itself. This truth is veiled because it threatens those who profit from your slumber. Now is the time to awaken, not because you were told to, but because your deepest self calls you. Trust that quiet voice. Follow that steady knowing. Step fully into your power. The veil of illusion cracks wider every day. More eyes open, more hearts rise. You're not alone. Together, a new world forms, a world grounded in truth, freedom and authentic connection. This is your moment, your awakening, your truth. If you've ever seen the film Inception, you've touched on this concept, the idea that reality bends with belief, imagination, and intention. It's more than fiction. It's real. Your energy, your focus, your belief shape the world around you. To explore deeper and learn to master your energy, watch my video on energy mastery, your next step on this path. If this message resonates, like, comment and subscribe to stay connected. Share in the comments if Inception shifted your view on reality. Type, "I'm ready," if you feel the shift and are prepared to embrace your true power. Thank you for journeying through awakening with me. Until next time.